Hey loves, it's your girl Mariah Sincere, and I am back with another bomb live. I am so sorry, guys. I thought I set the live for 8:30. No, it was for 8:20. Or was it 8? I don't know. Anyway, hey, what up, Tupac? I hope you come back. He says, "Where are you? Knock knock. Who is there? Who? Latas? Who? Latas in? We are waiting for you. Ha ha ha. BBL. Who have a BBL? Y'all are so funny. Y'all, please hit the like button on y'all way in. I got a really good show for y'all tonight. So yeah, y'all please hit the like button on your way in. Share my video if you care. Today, the topics of discussion. We are going to be delving into illegal immigration again. We are going to be delving into the Supreme Court upholding Donald Trump's decision to deport illegal immigrants who have a criminal record, and countries will not take them back to third-party countries. That has been a big point of controversy. We are also going to be delving into NYC's really scary mayoral race and why that city is just it's done for. It's a wrap. Like, it's been a wrap for NYC. I feel like I can say these things as somebody who's from Texas. Like, and I've seen the degradation of places like California and New York City. And we had to absorb a lot of their population down south. And people like to talk about the southern states because we tend to lean conservative, especially Texas. It's been conservative for a very long time. Yes, we have like liberal pockets like Dallas, but yeah, we tend to go red, and people talk about us, but they cannot stop moving to our state. So I don't know. You tell me what it is. Anyway, so first, let's get into it. Guys, again, if you're just now coming in, hit the like button. Oh, before I get started, guys, if you will be traveling to Colombia and you need a travel buddy, go to my website, ThePassportSis.com. You can book me there. If you will be traveling to any Spanish-speaking countries and you need Spanish lessons, you can also book me on that site. Or if you just like my perspective on life and you need somebody to talk to, I do life coaching for things like relationships, restructuring your life, creating plans so that you can follow your dreams if you have a job that you don't like. So I do life coaching. So you can go to ThePassportSis.com and book with me. If you just want to talk to me because you like me, you can book with me on ThePassportSis.com. Okay, so let's get into it today. Please hit the like button on y'all's way in. First, I'm going to show this news story on CBS News. If y'all hear salsa music in the background, I apologize. The restaurant across the street plays salsa music all day, very loud. It is what it is.
And ATS systems. Maximum.
That the Trump administration can deport migrants to third countries with limited notice and due process for now. Justice Sonia Sotomayor issued a sharp dissent, writing in part the court's majority was, quote, rewarding lawlessness. Let's bring in immigration and politics reporter Camilo Montoya Galvez. Good to see you, my friend.
Good morning.
All right, so what are the implications of this ruling?
Well, this ruling by the Supreme Court pauses and suspends a lower court order that had prevented the Trump administration from deporting migrants to third countries, meaning nations that are not their own, without limited and significant due process. The judge in that case in Massachusetts had required the administration to, one, tell detainees where they were going, which third country they were going to be deported to, and also to give them a meaningful opportunity to contest their deportation by saying that they are scared.
Okay, now I'm going to tell y'all right now. That makes no sense. Now, I understand them saying that these people should be told where they're going. Absolutely. Let them know where they're going. But Donald Trump has made certain deals with certain countries. And in any event, the reason why these people are being deported to third-party countries is because their country of origin is saying, we're not going to take them. Okay. These are people who have criminal backgrounds, and their countries are saying, we are not taking them back. We don't want to deal with you. In turn, Donald Trump has made deals with certain countries. Okay, so we know in El Salvador, he's made a deal with the Salvadorian president Bukele to send some of the migrants to Sukkot, but Sukkot cannot take everybody. Okay, so he's also made a deal with countries like Djibouti, South Sudan, and it's not just that other countries are serving as bridge countries. Give me 1 second. So there are countries like, for example, Panama and Costa Rica are accepting migrants from certain countries, not everywhere. So they'll accept them from Asia, China, Iran, Vietnam, Uzbekistan, and some places in Africa, and they'll hold them temporarily before they are sent to their country of origin. Mexico has also quietly received migrants that are not from their country as part of bridge programs until they can get to where they're going. Give me 1 second. So at this time, South Sudan has at least 8 convicted migrants who are subject to removal flights, although one was South Sudanese. So one of them was actually from South Sudan. But now the Supreme Court has allowed these deportations to resume. And there was a flight that was on its way to South Sudan, but it landed in Djibouti. And those detainees had to stay there until this decision got passed down. So again, the problem is not Donald Trump. The problem is these people's countries of origin refusing to take these migrants back and put them in detention centers in their countries. They don't want to deal with them at all, which is unfortunate. And I think one problem with liberals is they expect people not to find solutions and workarounds for problems that arise during this administration. You know, I've said this before, I'll say it again. The anger is misplaced. The anger should be placed on the previous administration who allowed open borders and these sanctuary states who lured migrants in through false promises that they would get jobs and that they would be able to come and integrate into society when we don't have any jobs. American citizens are losing their jobs left and right, getting laid off. The job market is terrible right now. Now, one thing that they did make good on was give people hotel housing and spend city funds on that. We're going to talk about New York in a second. They gave people cell phones, money on card, food stamps, services of which the average American has a very difficult time obtaining when they need help. A lot of those services had been gotten cut even before the Trump administration. And Americans had to sit and watch those services just be given to people who are not from this country, who came up through the southern border, while they had to struggle with rising gas prices, groceries, and housing costs. So it's kind of like when you have open borders, there are consequences that come with that. So unfortunately, this is a negative consequence that comes with that. Okay. Let's continue on with the news report.
Of going to that country and that they want to be interviewed by a U.S. asylum officer. And that order had prevented the deportation of 8 men with criminal records to South Sudan who were from countries like Vietnam and Myanmar and Mexico even. They're currently in a U.S. military base in Djibouti, Vlad. So this could pave the way for the administration.
Again, why are we wasting our time on this? These are people with criminal convictions. Why? Why are we giving this energy?
To continue those deportations to
Now, I will say this, depending on the severity of the criminal conviction, no, I wouldn't want to see somebody who for a minor infraction, because technically speaking, if you have a traffic infraction, you broke the law, you're a criminal. No, I wouldn't want that person to be sent all the way across the world for that. But again, unfortunately, these are the consequences that come with illegal immigration. When you immigrate to a country illegally, you set yourself up for a very, very uncertain future. Anything could happen. You could get stopped by, for example, in Colombia, they will randomly stop you and ask you for your ID here. Okay. And if you don't have your ID, that is against the law. So you're in constant, if you were in a country illegally, you are in constant fear of getting stopped and getting deported, and you don't know it's hard to plan for your future when you're living like that. And it's very much a choice.
Third countries, and again, to do so with limited due process and notice.
So explain to the audience what this deal with El Salvador entails, which allows the United States to deport alleged criminals to that country.
Well, back in March, the U.S. deported more than 200 alleged Venezuelan gang members to El Salvador, and that country in Central America imprisoned them at that notorious mega prison known as Sacot, which is infamous in that country, and they have been held there incommunicado effectively since.
The way that they're reporting on this, which is infamous in that country, baby, the Salvadorians love Sacot. Their country has not been safer at any point in history since before Sacot got built. After Sacot got built, now people can finally go to the park with their families without fear of violence. So this is very popular with the Salvadorian people. CBS News, the way that they frame things is very biased, but you'll see as he continues on with the story.
And with no access to counsel or to calls with relatives or friends, we have not received any proof of life officially for these men, and the administration has argued that they are all terrorists, criminals, and gang members.
Okay, so y'all know in Sacot, you cannot call family or friends or anything like that because that is a special prison in El Salvador. It's not a regular prison. Most of the people that go to that prison have at least one body, and they have life sentences on them, and they have gang member affiliations. I did a live a few lives ago where I actually showed y'all when Nick Shirley was allowed access to Sacot. And he was able to see the prisoners, and no, you cannot, they cannot have visitation. No, they don't have phones and access to the outside world. And the reason why is because that prison is full of people who are violent finessers, who, if given those sort of means, would certainly try to use it to bring things that they shouldn't have into the prison or escape the prison. And these are not people that you want on the streets. So from what I was able to see when Nick Shirley was allowed to tour the prison, I'm pretty confident these people are alive. Now, is it the Four Seasons? No, it's not the Four Seasons. And it's definitely uncomfortable. And I would not want to be there, right? But again, when you go to a country that is not your country, and you get yourself caught up in the criminal justice system and you get charges brought up on you, what happens is you put yourself in a position where your future is uncertain. And it's very unfortunate for them. But if they had victims, right, because some of these people were going for, like, they had bodies on them, domestic abuse, things like that. Well, actually, this is very fortunate for their victims.
But a 60 Minutes report actually found that we could not find 75% of them to have criminal records. And so that is really important to note. But this order by the Supreme Court could potentially allow the administration to carry out more third country deportations to countries like El Salvador.
There's something else you're following with as it relates to the Department of Homeland Security and what Kristi Noem is saying about how the federal government is going to operate mass detention centers.
Yes, so just to level set, ICE has been ramping up operations to arrest undocumented immigrants across the country. Right now, ICE is averaging about 1,200 daily arrests. That is up from about 660 during the first 100 days of the second Trump administration. So there has been a significant significant increase in arrests, but the agency is running out of space to detain people while they await deportation. And now states like Florida are offering them detention facilities, including one in the Everglades that state officials are dubbing Alligator Alcatraz, because the state attorney general is saying that the only way to escape is to fight snakes and alligators in those treacherous lands.
Wow.
Okay,
Disturbing.
well, then that just means they can't escape. What are we talking about? You shouldn't be trying to escape. If you know there are snakes and alligators, why would you be trying to escape? Why would you be trying to escape being deported to your home country? You're not supposed to be here. So him bringing up, oh, you have to fight snakes and alligators to escape. Well, you shouldn't be trying to escape. You were detained. You were in process of being sent home. Escaping would be illegal, right? So again, it's the way that CBS frames things. And furthermore, again, we would not be going through this had this previous administration not had open borders. The American people elected Trump on the premise that he would be doing mass deportations. This is what they asked for. And so this is what they're getting. And I know the Democrats are not used to elected officials getting into office and making good on the things that they say. And I certainly have my criticisms of Donald Trump's administration. I certainly do. But this is one aspect of his administration where he is winning and he is doing what the American people elected him to do. Point blank, period. Now, I'm going to go over to Kyle Kulinski's channel. Y'all, when I tell y'all, I am so over Kyle Kulinski. Now, if you don't know who Kyle Kulinski is, he is a progressive YouTuber. And actually, I used to really, really like him a lot. I started watching Kyle Kulinski, and I want to say during the 2016 election when Bernie Sanders was running. He was a huge Bernie supporter. I was a Bernie supporter. And Kyle actually made a video where he explained he kind of started off libertarian and he like moved closer and closer to being a progressive. And like Kyle used to be more unbiased. You know, he's always kind of, since I've watched him, he's always kind of had progressive leanings. But then it just got to the point where he became really dishonest and disingenuous in his reporting. And I'm not saying this just because I like disagree with him on some things. I watched this happen. Like, and then it got to a point where after he married Crystal Ball, who's also like extremely progressive, it's like the quality of his content went down. It started being more about emotionalism than the actual facts. He stopped calling things down the middle, and now he's just a panderer. All he does is pander to an extremely liberal base, and I'm tired of it. So in this last instance, he basically accused Donald Trump of sending illegal immigrants into slavery. I'm going to show y'all. We are going to react to this video. Okay. 1 second. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, so first of all, the title of this video reads Shock. Supreme Court decision dooms immigrants to slavery. You already messed up with this title. I am so sick of these people pretending like they don't know the difference between immigrants who are here legally and illegal immigrants. We want to come up with every other name than what it is. They want to say undocumented people. They want to say migrants. They want to use every euphemism they can find in the book. Call it illegal immigrants. Because immigrants that are in the United States legally are not being put on planes and sent to third-party countries. It's just not happening.
They've been doing many illegal things when it comes to their deportations, which I would categorize as kidnappings and abductions and human traffickings.
Well, you can't call it illegal when the Supreme Court just said that Donald Trump can resume it. So you can't call it illegal.
I would categorize as kidnappings and abductions and human trafficking.
Kyle Kulinski, why weren't you saying anything when actual human trafficking was going on through the southern border? You weren't saying anything when 500,000 children went missing at the southern border. That was actual human trafficking. You didn't say anything about that. And now, because people are being held accountable for being here illegally, now you want to talk about human trafficking. When for 4 years, there were people sounding the alarm about actual human trafficking that was going on in the United States. We are the biggest market for human trafficking. But now it's time to panic. Okay.
But one of the things they've been doing is sending people to third-party countries. So in other words, let's say you're an immigrant from Ecuador. In theory, they could just round you up and send you to Somalia.
No.
Right? So there were...
No, because Ecuador is taking its people back. So no, in theory, no, they can't just round Ecuadorians up and send them to Somalia because Ecuador is accepting its illegal immigrants back. But okay, I digress.
Lawsuits about this where people were saying, like, you can't fucking do that. You can't just round somebody up and send them to a country they've never been, where they don't speak the language, they have no roots there, they have nowhere to go.
Okay, so it wasn't a problem when people were illegally entering the United States where they didn't have any roots there, they didn't know the language, and they didn't have anywhere to go. So in places like NYC, the city literally had to pay for their housing. So that was okay. But this is not, because what is the difference? The only difference is they went to New York willingly. These people are going to these countries unwillingly. But again, those are natural consequences. Furthermore, what's the alternative? Because in these situations, these people have criminal backgrounds. So let's say they are allowed to stay in the United States. The alternative is that they go to prison here. They will be in prison. And we all know our prison system is nothing nice. That's nowhere that you want to be. These are very dangerous places. So what is the problem? I'm trying to understand here.
That's horrific. That's a colossal human rights abuse. Well, the Supreme Court just decided, nope, that's totally legal. We're fine with that. We support that. No problem whatsoever. So let me walk you through this. This is in Common Dreams. Incomprehensible. Liberal justices blast Supreme Court decision allowing Trump to resume third country deportations. Quote, the government has made clear... in word and deed that it feels itself unconstrained by law, free to deport anyone, anywhere without notice or an opportunity to be heard, wrote Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor. The Supreme Court on Monday temporarily lifted a lower court order that had required the Trump administration to give migrants the chance to challenge their deportation to a country other than their nation of origin, clearing the way for resumption of such removals and prompting a strongly worded dissent from the three liberal justices. The conservative majority behind the ruling did not offer a rationale for the order, but said the preliminary injunction handed down by a district court judge in April is stayed pending appeal. They didn't even explain themselves. They just said, yeah, you want to deport people to countries they've never been? Don't care. Go ahead. Total.
Now, I think that was a misstep. I think that they should have explained themselves. I don't think it would have been difficult to explain. They should have explained themselves. Because again, what is the alternative? The alternative is they stay in the United States, they go to prison in the United States, and the American people pay for it. It will get paid for on our tax dollars.
Totally unexplained Supreme Court ruling on third country deportations will produce widespread confusion in lower courts. Did the court object to the nationwide aspect? Think judges lack jurisdiction? Something else? Who knows? Wrote Politico senior legal affairs reporter Josh Gerstein, offering a prediction of what's to come. Trump administration efforts to deport immigrants to countries they are not from has become one of the most contentious aspects of U.S. President Donald Trump's crackdown on immigration. In May, the Trump administration put 8 men, most of whom are not from South Sudan, on a flight said to be headed to South Sudan, though the flight instead landed in Djibouti. The men have been held in Djibouti since U.S. District Judge Brian Murphy told Trump administration officials that they unquestionably violated a court order he issued in April when it attempted to carry out those third country deportations to South Sudan. The Supreme Court's order stays that ruling from Murphy issued in April, which directed the Trump administration not to deport immigrants to countries other than their home countries without giving them adequate notice to raise concerns that they might face danger if sent there.
Okay, so any reasonable person, if I'm an illegal immigrant and my home country won't take me back, because this is the problem, their countries of origin will not take them back. If my home country won't take me back and you tell me that I'm going to be sent to another country, you best believe that I'm going to say whatever it is that I need to say to ensure I don't get sent to that country, whether it's true or not true. So, of course, the vast majority, if not all of them, are going to try to make the case that they are going to be unsafe in these third-party countries. Again, it's a very unfortunate situation, but these are the consequences of the last 4 years. It just is what it is.
However, quote, in an order Monday, Murphy said the 8 men in Djibouti remain protected from immediate removal despite the Supreme Court's ruling, referencing another order he had issued last month, separate from the one put on hold by the Supreme Court. In a blistering dissent, Sonia Sotomayor wrote that the ruling exposes, quote, thousands to the risk of torture and death and comes down on the side of the Trump administration, even though it had violated the lower court's order. Sotomayor was joined by...
Sotomayor is going to have to prove that wherever these immigrants are being sent, that they will be exposed to torture and death. Like, you're going to have to prove that. Because, again, the alternative is that they are in the United States prison system, where we know actual graping, SA, and unaliving happens in the United States prison system. So them staying here and going to prison isn't necessarily safer than where they're going.
Elena Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson, quote, the government has made clear in word and deed that it feels itself unconstrained by law, free to deport anyone anywhere without notice or an opportunity to be heard. Apparently, she continued, the court finds the idea that
this is so misleading because they're not deporting anyone anywhere. They are deporting illegal immigrants who have already had orders of deportation. That's another false story that's being put out there, that illegal immigrants are showing up to their court dates and they are immediately being arrested by ICE and they're not being given due process. That's not true. They're showing up to their court dates. The judge is giving them orders of deportation, meaning they have not been granted the right to stay in this country. They have to go to their home country and ICE is arresting them there. Why? Because they need to make sure that they get back home, that they don't leave and go somewhere else. So they're getting their due process. The problem is people don't like the outcomes of the due process. But just because you don't like the outcome of the due process doesn't mean that you haven't been given due process.
That thousands will suffer violence in far-flung locales more palatable than the remote possibility that a district court exceeded its remedial powers when it ordered the government to provide notice and process to which the plaintiffs are constitutionally and statutorily entitled. That use of discretion is as incomprehensible as it is inexcusable. Department of Homeland Security Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin called the ruling a victory on Monday. Quote, DHS can now execute its lawful authority and remove illegal aliens to a country willing to accept them, she said in a statement. Fire up the deportation planes. When you think it can't get worse, it does, said Jill Wine-Banks, an MSNBC legal analyst, in response to the ruling. So I need you to understand what the impacts of this are, because this is super important, guys. You could take somebody and send them not only to a country they've never been to and don't speak the language, etc. You can send them to a war-torn region and they have zero protection and they're stuck there. It gets worse. You can send them, and they're trying to indeed send them to failed states like Libya. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I don't have to tell you guys because most of you already know this from previous covers that we've done on this show. But Libya now has open slave markets. I'm not kidding. When Gaddafi was overthrown, it became a failed state. Now you have open slave markets.
He's telling the truth about that. Libya does have open slave markets. But again, he keeps going back to this, oh, we're sending them somewhere where they don't know the language and they don't have any roots to, and somewhere where they never have been. And it's like, yeah, that was the case when they came up through the southern border. The vast majority of them don't know English, have no roots here, and had never been here. So, like, that's a moot point. As far as the slave market in Libya, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say that's not impossible that those countries don't decide to put them on the slave market. And if they did, that's very messed up. I would hope that we would be negotiating with countries that don't engage in those type of practices. And I would say if there was any criticism I would offer to this situation, it would be that, because I would hate to see a situation where we sent somebody to another country and they ended up getting sold into slavery, right? But we don't know for sure if that's going to be the case. We don't know the accommodations that are being given to these people. And again, we have to talk about this with the understanding that these people have criminal backgrounds. Their own countries will not take them back. And even if they stayed in the United States, they would not be in the best of conditions. They would be in United States prison.
So you can round up an immigrant here, no due process.
Illegal immigrant. Kyle, illegal immigrant. I'm going to say it for the people in the back who can't hear. Illegal immigrant. See, this is how they try to get people on their side. And I'm going to show y'all this clip that Shakira put out in an interview today that really irritated me. And shout out to all the legal immigrants who checked her. But this is what they try to do. They try to throw legal immigrants and illegal immigrants all into one bag so that they can get the legal immigrants who are here and maybe have some citizenship or some residency so that they can get them on their side so that they can identify with the illegal immigrants. That way, if they're a naturalized citizen and it comes time for them to vote, they're voting for these Democratic lawmakers because a part of them feels like they identify with the illegal immigrant, even though they came here legally. This is the games that they play. It's all emotional games in play. And I'm over it. Like, my heart is numb to it at this point.
Says no habeas corpus, no time. Immediately put them on a deportation plane and send them to a war-torn region like South Sudan or Congo, or send them to Libya, where they will probably end up in literal slavery. Do you not understand what's happening here yet? Do you not see this for what it is?
What is it?
That's why I look back and I think it's adorable that we ever used to debate whether or not this regime was fascist. When you look at the laundry list of shit they do, when you look at rounding up 288 people and sending them to a literal concentration camp in El Salvador, where they say nobody ever gets out of here alive. These are innocent. These are people that...
It's a prison. It's not a concentration camp. It's a prison. They're not in there doing slave labor or any. This is the issue I have with Democrats, right? They want to compare everything to the Jewish plight in World War II. And again, I already did the video on Stekot where Nick Shirley went in there and he was given a tour of the place. These inmates there are not engaging in forced labor. They're not. They literally just sit in a cell for like 23 hours a day. I think they're given like an hour. It's either 30 minutes or an hour to where they have exercise and a preacher comes and talks to them. And, you know, they're given something to eat, but they're not doing any forced labor. They're sitting in their cells, in these big cells, all day long. Nobody's putting them in gas chambers. So this is not a concentration camp. I'm so sick of them trying to get an emotional response by continuing to compare everything that is going on during the Trump administration to Hitler and Nazi Germany. It's actually disrespectful, if you ask me.
We'll have a mom and dad tattoo. And they said, oh, that's a gang tattoo we're going to send you. One of these guys had an autism awareness tattoo for his 15-year-old brother who had autism, who he helped with. They said, oh, that's a gang tattoo. We're going to send you there. You have horror story after horror story of innocent person after innocent.
Now you're just making stuff up now. They know what they know what gang tattoos look like. And I remember when like ICE was deporting these men, they were showing these tattoos. And they were listing off the criminal offenses that these men had.
Innocent person sent there. No due process whatsoever. No habeas corpus. Never got a day in court. No hearing. No nothing. Sent there, and they're just stuck. We were able to get Kilmar back. There was only one of 288. By the way, 75% to 90% of the people who were sent to the concentration camp in El Salvador, no criminal record whatsoever. None. Now they're talking about sending up to 30,000 people.
I canceled my Midjourney subscription because this AI does everything I need for a one-time cost.
To Guantanamo Bay. Immigrants to Guantanamo Bay. They're also talking about, we're going to do a segment on this in a second.
Illegal immigrants.
They're building a concentration camp in this country now. I'll give you the details on that in a little bit. So we have a rogue regime here. They're rounding up. Not just that American citizens are being rounded up. There was a 4-year-old American citizen with cancer who was deported without any medicine whatsoever. ICE Gestapo thugs arrested a woman immediately after she gave birth. There was a
Gestapo. Now they calling them the Gestapo. And again, with the child, like this, it's all this emotionalism. The child was deported with their parents who were here illegally. It just is what it is. And I hate it. I hate that people are in these positions. But like as an American, there's so many people who cannot get treatment for their cancer. And if you go to another country illegally, they're not going to give you treatment for your cancer. And it sucks. It's terrible. It's terrible. And honestly and truly, I wish in situations like that, we could do something a little bit better. But that is not a reason for us to discontinue deportations as a whole.
There's a colossal backlash to that, and they eventually were forced to let her go.
You can't do anything perfect. You can't. What they want is a perfect scenario situation, but you are going to have some sad cases get caught up in this whole situation. Again, we wouldn't even be here because there have been illegal immigrants in the United States for decades now who have been living their lives. And yeah, you had some people that talked about it and cared about it, but the majority of Americans didn't care about it. And those people were able to pretty much fly under the radar for a very long time. We would not be here had the Biden administration not went haywire, left the floodgates wide open. So yeah, we're going to see some sad stories in the mix.
But this is what they're doing. Why do you think the ICE Gestapo thugs are covering their faces? Why do you think? Because they know.
They're covering their faces because people are lunatics. People are literal lunatics. Cash Jordan, I might pull it up. He made a video about how they were like literally trying to break into an ICE facility. There are people who would literally hunt these ICE agents down, unalive them and their family. That's why they don't show their face. They're just trying to do their job. And people would make it about them instead of the actual problem that they're trying to solve. So no, it's not safe saying, oh, show your face, for what? Why? Why do you need to know what they look like? They are doing a job on behalf of the United States federal government. You know the face of the man who represents them, Donald Trump. So if you have a bone to pick with them about what they're doing, pick it with Donald Trump.
They're the criminals. They know they're the gangsters.
No, they're actually not the criminals. They are following legal orders. They're not gangsters. They're following legal orders.
The thugs. They're the ones violating the law on a daily basis. That
How?
None of this stuff would actually hold up.
How? When they've been given jurisdiction to carry out these arrests.
Up in court. I've told you the stories of ICE thugs waiting outside of immigration courtrooms, and even if the case is dismissed, they arrest the person who comes out. This is the complete and utter breakdown of rule of law in this country. When you raid Home Depots and when you raid 7-Elevens and hair salons, you go after innocent people with no criminal record who are just good, hardworking.
What up, Wilkes Tumbling? It's good to see you. Again, no, this is not true that they are arresting people whose cases have been dismissed. They've been given deportation orders. So ICE is arresting them so that they can be deported. It just is what it is. And yes, again, he's going to try to appeal to our emotions. Oh, these are good, hardworking people. And I'm sure a lot of them are. But again, when you enter a country illegally and you never get your immigration status fixed, because the time for that has come and gone, honestly and truly. You just have to understand this is what could possibly come with it. It just is what it is. And you as an American citizen, you cannot go to another country and do this without being in fear of being deported as well. And they're not going to be so nice about it. At least this administration has been offering people self-deportations. They've been giving people money to go get themselves settled when they get back home. Do you think you as an American citizen are going to get that kind of treatment if you go to another country illegally? 9 times out of 10, no. They're going to send you on a plane back and you figure it out.
Family people.
I told y'all there was a situation with a dude that was here in Colombia, and he overstayed his visa. He booked a flight to go home, went to the airport in Colombia. He thought he was just going to pay a fine for overstaying, which the fines are hefty. They could be up to like $1,000. It depends on how long you stay. He thought he was just going to pay a fine for overstaying. Oh no. They arrested him and told him that he had to go through the deportation process. So they made him miss his flight. Like he was gonna go home on his own accord. And they were like, no, you have to go through the deportation process. And when you go through a deportation process, that gets put on your passport. That follows you. And you might not be allowed entry into other countries when they see that you have been deported from another country. See, when you go abroad as an American, people are not playing games with you. I think what is getting people in an upward now is how Trump is doing it, not necessarily what he's do. Yeah, and you know what? A part of me can understand that. But like I was saying kind of earlier at the beginning, Will's tumbling is like, you got to think about it. That border was wide open for 4 years. We honestly don't know how many people are here. But like from the videos that I've seen of like people just coming in and in, just flooding, they were letting everybody in without restriction. It's to the point where this is such a rare circumstance, right? This is such an extraordinary circumstance. So you can't handle this like you would handle normal deportations. Like we had, like this illegal immigration exploded. So let's say everything was slow and things were kind of like taking years to work their way through the court. And this is what the liberals are asking for. They want this slow process. Then basically by the time Trump's administration ends, you wouldn't even be able to put a dent in the amount of illegal people who are here. And again, these are the unfortunate consequences of supporting an administration that did this. People have to take some accountability. If I was a Democrat, I would be wanting something like this to never happen again. If I was a Democrat, my thought process would be, I want to know who's running. I want to know their position on keeping the borders closed so that we don't have to go through this again. Not leaving these borders wide open. Like, what is your position on securing the border so that we don't have to be emotionally traumatized again? That would be my thought process. I don't disagree. That immigration needs to be fixed, but I'm not sure he's doing it right. You know what? He may or may not be doing it right, but here's the thing. It has to get done because that's what the American people elected him to do. And you're not going to be able to satisfy everybody. And like I said, there are going to be some situations where the stories and the cases are sad and they're very upsetting. But it is what it is. We have laws in this country. We can't have open borders. We can't support the whole world. And all those people that flooded in these last 4 years, these sanctuary cities, whether they want to admit it or not, could not keep affording to take care of them. Mayor Eric Adams, before Trump even got elected, that's why, the Democratic Party ain't really rocking with him now. He went on record saying, we cannot keep this up. We cannot keep taking care of these illegal immigrants. The vast majority of them that came didn't have a job. The ones that were getting jobs were suppressing wages for people who were already here because they were willing to do it for nothing, something to eat that day. So this is the unfortunate reality of the matter.
Who don't bother anybody, never cause any problems. If anything, they're a massive help to this country.
That's not an argument, is what they're... Kyle. That is not an argument. That is not an argument that you can make in front of a federal judge. Again, and I'm saying this as somebody who is in Colombia. I have to be here legally. If I overstay my visa, I cannot make the argument to the immigration officers and before the courts that I'm a good person and that I don't bother anybody. What does that have to do with the law? The law has no feelings. It doesn't.
You're doing. And now you could be rounded up and just shipped. You could be here from when you're a child. Been here decades. They can just round you up and ship you to Libya, and then you might end up in slavery. I mean, this is, I'm sorry, guys, we're way past just like impeach and remove.
Again, this is all speculation. So the reason why Kyle Kulinski is saying that you can get shipped to Libya and you might end up in slavery is because Libya does have a slave trade market. We don't know if the immigrants that are being sent there will be traded on the slave market. And I don't want to say they are or they aren't. I don't know. I don't know the accommodations. And that's what I'm saying. I do think that the Trump administration could be more clear about the accommodations that are being provided and the deals that he's worked out with these third-party countries so that stuff like this can be debunked. But this is him speculating. He has no proof of this. He's just saying, oh, they engage in the slave trade there, so these immigrants are being sent there to be sold on the slave trade. Let's be clear. A lot of illegal immigrants that came up through the southern border were sold into the slave trade here in America via SMEGS trafficking. And I know that to be true. I know that to be true. Right now I'm in Colombia. The market started here. They were I'm not saying the government is. There are people who were selling children from all over the world into the trafficking market, and they were going up the southern border. And the cartels were selling them, were trafficking them through the United States. We still haven't found all those people.
This is like impeach, remove, and criminally try these people. Kristi Noem needs to be in prison. Stephen Miller needs to be in prison. Donald Trump needs to be in prison. The colossal degree of human rights violations, it is astronomical.
Again, he was not calling for the arrest of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden when they allowed massive, actual human sex trafficking of children through the southern border. He did not care. He did not care. Those are human rights violations. I'm going to do a whole show about that. Hi, what's up? Just Deezy. Watch the Benny Show on 624. Shock: Israel implicated in JFK assassination. He shows docs. Now we know why all JFK files have not been released. Just Dreezy, thank you for telling me about that. Hold on, I'm going to take a picture of this so that I can watch that when I have some time, because I don't want to do it now because I have a lot of things to talk about. But that was a great suggestion. And that's coming right on the tails of me doing my last show where, we showed the audio. We listened to the audio of Israel threatening the lives of the women and children of the Iranian leaders. So, redacted 626 per ex-CIA. Israel was going to pull a terrorist act, then blame it on Iran. Wouldn't put it past them.
We're astronomical what we're talking about here. Can't have it. Literally can't have it. And now the Supreme Court is aiding them in their dirty work. This
is how emotional these people are. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. To me, if you want Donald Trump to get impeached, then you have to think about who's going to come behind him. J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is far more conservative than Donald Trump is. Make no mistake. Make no mistake about this. He's far more conservative on immigration. He's far more conservative on abortion rights. Donald Trump at least says, hey, he believes in abortion up to a certain point. He has a very moderate stance on abortion. He thinks it should be a states' right issues. J.D. Vance, he believes in banning abortion. So in this situation, I'm in full support of Donald Trump and his agenda for the American people. But like in this situation, as far as the Democrats are concerned, they would be wise to just let that man be. Because they don't want to see J.D. Vance let off the leash. Baby, that's not no puppy. That's a big dog. Hi, Lou. What's up? Hi, Alexis. Hi, Mariah. Lou Valentino sent me. What's up? Hey, how are you? Good to see you. Tell your mom I said, hey. What are you talking about? Who is this? Tell your mom I said hey. That's funny.
Without even making an argument, they say, yeah, go ahead. Ship out whoever you want with no hearing to wherever the fuck you want them to be. Who cares? Send them to a place with a civil war. Maybe they die, maybe they don't. Who cares? Send them to a place with open slave markets. Who cares? Go for it. Go for it. This is the crime of all crimes, if you ask me. And it's now the case that immigrants have been fully dehumanized, right? Like that's what's happening here. Is they're not treated as human. They're not
illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants. And in the case of the ones that are being sent to other countries, it is because their country of origin won't take them back. So who's wrong in that situation? Is it the United States or is it their country for refusing to take them back? If they were going to remain in the United States, they would be sent to a U.S. prison. What goes on in U.S. prisons? Well, let's start with you better not drop the soap. Gang activity, gang rapings, forced labor does happen in U.S. prisons where they are making Victoria's Secret panties for 10 cents. I don't know if that's the exact number, y'all. So I got to say allegedly on that. But we know what they do. We know they're making clothing for these corporations in the United States prisons. So again, what was the alternative here?
treated as people. They're just viewed as like, we do whatever the fuck we want with you and you can shut the fuck up. They don't care about your story. They don't care about the details. They don't care about the specifics. And as you know, we've talked about this before, but over 90% of these people, no criminal record whatsoever. None. Just regular people living their lives. We've heard U.S. veterans have been arrested by ICE. We heard about that. U.S. Marshals have been arrested by ICE.
I haven't heard that.
This is what they do. This is what they do.
And a lot of this is like lying. For example, y'all, my family sent me this story in the group chat and they were like, oh my gosh, is this true? A lot of this is not even true. Hold on. Let me pull up this message I got in the group chat. It was on TikTok. Okay, basically, there's a story going around on TikTok that my family sent me. And in the video, it said Donald Trump just banned residents, like legal residents, from leaving the country or coming back into this country or flying back and forth between their country of origin because of these bans that they have on certain countries. So I had to like literally go look it up. And the ban exclusively states that residents and green card holders are excluded from these travel bans. So you have people like this who will spew propaganda and not offer any proof. But it doesn't matter because once people hear it, they believe it.
It's a fascist country. That's what it is. And these are fascist decisions. And anybody who supports it, yeah.
So basically, any country that has immigration laws and upholds their immigration laws is a fascist country. Because you can't do this. You can't do this in other countries. So it is fascist to have immigration laws and uphold the immigration laws and stand on business on the immigration laws. Then you're a fascist. Okay. And you got my boy Kyle on here. I don't like him. I used to watch him. I don't like him now. But you really need to put on Sabby Sabs. I'm gonna have to watch who that is and see what they're talking about. Hi, Mariah. I agree with you on JD. Yeah. I'm like, people are complaining about JD Vance. And it's good to see you, Alexis. I don't know if I said hi to you earlier. People are complaining about Donald Trump and acting like he's the worst man in the world and they're ready to impeach him. Like that's going to do something. I just keep seeing these liberal pundits, and I keep seeing people on social media, oh, impeach Donald Trump, impeach Donald Trump. And okay, yes, so who is in next? Who is in line for secession? JD Vance. Okay, well, I hope that you like JD Vance better. I like JD Vance. I'm just saying, if they think they are going to get a better outcome through impeaching Donald Trump, they are wrong. I feel like JD Vance would be far more ruthless in his approach than Donald Trump. Guys, please hit the like button if you're just now coming in. Prison labor is also what makes jail big business on top of the trafficking in there. Yeah, so it's like he's talking about the prison markets and trafficking in other countries. And it's like, well, nobody, before they came to the United States, nobody sat and thought, dang, if I go to the United States, I'm going to get sex trafficked, or I'm going to have to do slave labor in prison. That exists in the United States too, much in the same way that it exists in Libya. We have the biggest sex trafficking market in the world here in the United States. They're saying impeach him because of the wars. Do you think that JD Vance would be making a different decision, though? I know they're saying impeach him because they don't like that he bombed Israel. But again, let's be clear. I mean, sorry, he bombed Iran. Let's be clear. Obama did a lot of things without going to Congress, and so did Joe Biden. They bombed countries without going to Congress. And I'm not saying it's right. I personally feel like these decisions should be made through Congress. But my whole thing is be consistent. And that's why nobody takes them seriously. They're so inconsistent. They're both clowns. I like them. I really like that JD Vance. Now, I don't agree with him on his abortion stance at all. But I do like him. I think he's very well spoken. I can't think of a Democrat alternative who, like, if you put JD Vance on stage in a debate in 2028, I can't think of anybody that the Democrats have on their side that could actually go toe-to-toe with him in a debate. That man is good. He's very good with his words. He's very well spoken. Sometimes people are such liberal idealists, they don't realize the world is this harsh. They don't. And that's why they think that we're so evil. That's why they're comparing the United States to Nazi Germany, because they don't understand how the law works in other countries. They don't understand that we're actually being very kind. Offering people money to go back home, allowing people to self-deport. These are courtesies that most countries will not extend to you if you go in their country and do the same. Matter of fact, in Poland, if you try to cross their border illegally, they have orders to shoot you like a dog in the street. Like there's no getting in their country and going through a due process and going through ICE. No, you try to come across this border, then it's going to be your last day on this earth. And they don't care who you are. This is in Poland. I have a friend who has bought into all the BS. I have to change the subject when he brings stuff up. Yeah, because there's no explaining this. It's so irrational. And when you try to rationalize it to them, they don't have good arguments. So they get upset. Like they get upset and get emotional, and then they start calling you names. Westmore would destroy Vance. Let's not go there. I don't know about that. I pray my friend wakes up. I voted for Cornel West. I think he'd be better than anyone. I don't think so. And the reason why I don't think that Cornel West would be good, because he doesn't know. He's not realistic when it comes to dealing with issues of the economy. Another reason why that, honestly and truly, that's the biggest thing. I won't even get into the other thing I was about to say, but the economy, no. He will lose people on that every single time. Gretchen Whitmer would make JD Vance her cellmate and he'd wash her drawers. Elizabeth Warren, I don't like Gretchen Whitmer. Elizabeth Warren and Nina Turner would make him their son. Elizabeth Warren is I don't like her. She's very fake. I remember what she did to Bernie in the primaries. She is very radical and irrational in a lot of the things that she says. I don't find her to be intelligent at all. As a matter of fact, when I watched her during the Senate confirmation hearings, it further confirmed to me that like people had to be brainwashed on the left during the 2020 election to ever think that she was on par with Bernie Sanders. And even him, he has gotten on my nerves as of late. But, you know, there's a reason why she was losing. There's a reason why she was losing in the 2020 primary. No, JD Vance would wipe the floor with her. Easy. Gretchen Whitmer as well. Nina Turner is very well spoken. Actually, I like her. I would like to see them debate, actually. That's probably the only person Shadon brought up that I could think of that could actually go toe to toe with JD Vance. Who's your senator, Gretchen Whitmer or Elizabeth Warren? I'm an independent as of now. Liz Warren had me in tears in 2012 and 16. Why? Okay, so I'm off of Kyle Kulinski. It's just a shame what has happened to him. Now, let's get on to what is going on in New York City. Now, I'm going to show y'all this guy. He has currently won the Democratic nomination in the mayor race, the mayoral race. I always say that wrong, in New York City. Now, for those of y'all who don't know what New York City has been going through, okay, Elizabeth Warren, yeah, I ain't forgot how she snaked Bernie during the primaries, and I haven't forgotten how she stayed in the primaries as a spoiler when everybody else dropped out to split the vote between her and Bernie so that Joe Biden could secure the nomination. I won't forget that when Obama made that call and told her to stay in the race, that she stayed in to spoil Bernie because she knew she wasn't going to get the nomination. It was going to come down to, and Joe Biden was doing so bad. If Elizabeth Warren would have dropped out of that race, then Bernie Sanders could have possibly secured the nomination because he was leading. She did it on purpose. She is a hater. She is a snake. Then when I seen the things that she was saying to RFK during those Senate confirmation hearings, ma'am, you're supposed to be a progressive and you're going back and forth. You don't want this man to secure his spot because of what? You're supposed to be a liberal. We were the party of health. We used to be the party of make America healthy again. That's why I had to leave the Democrats, because they no longer were standing on the things they used to stand on. No. Obama made them do that for Joe. He sure did. She was so passionate. 2012, Liz Warren made you feel like somebody really cares about you. Yeah, I mean, that is the power of being able to be a snake oil salesman and being very well spoken and articulate. Doesn't mean you actually mean what you say. Okay, so let me pull up this guy. Hold on, let me share my screen. So this is the guy who just secured the nomination. He actually beat out Andrew Cuomo. For those of y'all who don't know who Andrew Cuomo is, he used to be the governor of New York City, but he fell from grace kind of during the COVID period, he was accused of SA. And then there was a scandal. They said he let a whole bunch of people in nursing homes pass away. So he was trying to make a comeback on the political scene and be the mayor of New York City. Mayor Eric Adams is currently the mayor of New York City. At the end of last year, he was indicted on federal charges. Donald Trump pardoned him of that indictment. But it was for corruption. Now, I'm not saying that, he didn't engage in any type of corruption. I'm sure a lot of these mayors do. And it's New York City, let's be clear. But the timing seemed convenient because it was after he started speaking up against housing the migrants. Like, he completely started reversing his stance on New York City being a sanctuary city. He was like, we can't afford it. We don't have the money. So he basically went against the Democratic establishment. Okay. And after that, all of this mess started going on with him. Now, with that said, he will be running up against this guy right here, Zohran Mandabi. He is a 33-year-old state assemblyman, and he was actually born in Ghana. And he immigrated to the United States, to New York City, when he was 7 years old. Okay. Now, this man went to college. Let me tell y'all what he went to college for. This is going to make a lot about him make sense. He got his degree in Africana studies. Now, I know I don't really have that much room to talk because I went to school for political science, and the only thing you can do with that is you can go to law school, or you can be a politician, or you can work in the government, or you can be a teacher. I don't know what the hell you can do with a degree in Africana studies. I don't know. I can't think of not one job. But that's what he got his degree in. So, it's already giving extremely liberal. And again, there's nothing wrong with being a liberal, but there is something wrong when you do stuff that doesn't make sense. And I'm going to go over his party platform as stated on his website. So I'm not getting this from a third party. This stuff is on his website that we're going to go over. And like, if this man becomes mayor, Southern states, get ready. Y'all are going to be taking in a lot more New Yorkers than what y'all already have taken into. I'm going to tell y'all right now, Texas is real full, especially like in places like Dallas and Houston and Austin. They're very full. Y'all gotta spread out some more if y'all are going to keep coming to Texas. That's all I got to say. I love it. Go Mandabi. His policies don't make fiscal sense for New York. I'll explain. I'll get into it. Now, a lot of people don't like the fact that, which I don't really care, honestly and truly. A lot of people don't like the fact that he was born in Ghana. As a matter of fact, people are trying to use that as a means to get him barred from the election. I personally don't care where he was born, and I honestly feel like the people of New York have to decide for themselves who they want to govern them. And if it's that big of a problem, then they just won't vote for him, period. You have to believe in democracy. Let's stop trying to, there are certain offices like the office of the presidency. You have to be a U.S. citizen, but that does not, you have to have been born in the United States, but that doesn't apply to all other offices. So it is what it is. If the people of New York have a problem that he was born in Ghana, then they just won't vote for him. I know people don't like that. They don't want to hear that, but that's just the truth. You can't say that you believe in democracy, but you don't allow the people to carry out democracy. I don't like the guy. So a lot of people took issue with this. So he did a campaign video, and he did it in Urdu and Hindi.
इस इलेक्शन में सिर्फ 20 दिन बचे हैं और चॉइस मेरे और एंड्रू कोमो के बीच में है। अगर आप पहली बार इलेक्शन के बारे में जान रहे हैं तो ये है जो एंड्रू कोमो ऑफर कर रहा है।
आज मेरे पास बिल्डिंगें हैं, प्रॉपर्टी है, बैंक बैलेंस है, बंगला है, गाड़ी है, क्या है तुम्हारे पास?
आपकी वजह से हमने $8 मिलियन रेज किया है, 6 लाख से ज्यादा दरवाजे खटखटाए हैं और बस इतने करीब है इस शहर का पहला साउथ एशियन मेयर बनाने के लिए। पर बात ये नहीं है कि मैं क्या बनूंगा, बात ये है कि मैं क्या करूंगा हमारे कम्युनिटीज के लिए.
Okay, so there we go with the identity politics again. Oh, I'll be the first South Asian mayor. Who cares? Are you any good? Nobody cares. I'm so sick of that being a selling point. Who gives a damn? It's the United States. We are a country of many different people, many different races. It's kind of like the whole Kamala Harris thing when they were like, oh, first black female vice president, and people will like get emotionally invested in that. It's a way to get people to try to emotionally invest and identify with you so they go vote for you. I only identify with you if your values align with mine. I don't care if you look like me. I don't care if you talk like me. Can we agree on the direction in which this country can go? Your race and your gender is irrelevant, in my opinion. But a lot of people didn't like that he made this campaign video. Now, this is not the first time that somebody has campaigned speaking in a language other than English. I've seen plenty of people do campaign ads in Spanish, especially in the South. To me, it's not that big of a deal. It's more so him trying to like hang his hat on, yes, y'all come elect the South Asian. And it's like, sir, what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? Exactly. Absolutely nothing. Okay, so Donald Trump has called him a lunatic. Donald Trump called him a liberal, a communist lunatic, to be exact. As a matter of fact, he was asked about it on Good Morning America. I'm going to share this screen, but I'm going to get into his policies and why people are calling him that.
To the latest on the stunning upset in New York City's mayoral primary, sending shockwaves through the Democratic Party. Zohran Mandabi was a little-known state lawmaker until recently. Now he's beaten nearly a dozen challengers, including former Governor Andrew Cuomo. Our senior political correspondent, Rachel Scott, joined us now, and you spoke with Mandabi. Good morning.
I spoke to him just yesterday. Good morning to you all. He was a little-known state assemblyman until just a few weeks ago, but his victory in the Democratic primary for mayor did deliver shockwaves in a party that is struggling to define its message and a path forward. This morning, Zohran Mandabi calling for a new generation of leaders after delivering a stunning upset in New York City's Democratic primary for mayor.
And I think that there is a need for a new generation of leadership.
The self-described Democratic socialist skyrocketed past former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. His campaign laser focused on making New York more affordable, a strategy he tells me could be a blueprint for Democrats.
I think there's a question of how we return back to what made so many of us proud to be Democrats.
How do you do that?
And I think it's that focus on an economic agenda, on ensuring that people can do more than just struggle.
He campaigns on freezing rents, making buses free, and opening city-run supermarkets, telling voters he will pay for his agenda by raising taxes on wealthy and corporations. But that would certainly face major challenges.
The buses don't have to be free in New York. So what's going on in New York is, first of all, for those of y'all who don't know, I'm in Colombia right now. I've been in Colombia for a year now, right? And Colombia has a far superior metro system than New York City. Hands down, I've never seen anything like this. It's better than my city in Dallas. It's very efficient. It's very clean. When you go on the train system or the buses here, first of all, because of their culture, you're not going to smell anybody. It doesn't stink. It doesn't smell like pee. People aren't allowed to eat or drink on the train system or the buses, and they don't. They absolutely don't. All of the entrances are manned. They have actual police officers at the entrance. There's no fare evasions. People aren't jumping and evading their fare here. And they're paying it. And because they're paying their fare and it's spread out equally amongst the people, and it's so good that many people use it, just like in New York, most people don't have cars. They use the train and the problem is too many people are evading their fares. Here, the government actually uses the money that they collect from the fares to maintain their subway system and make sure that it's organized and they have proper security. And this is supposed to be a third world country. This isn't supposed to be here. So why in the United States, a first world country, why in a city that's as well funded as New York City, can't they have a well-funded and properly operated metro system? Because here's the thing, he's saying that the metro system should be free. Somebody's going to pay for it. What are they going to do? Raise taxes on their citizens to collect the money? Or raise taxes on the businesses? All that's going to do is cause those businesses to leave and go to places like Texas and Georgia. So that's what I'm saying. He doesn't understand economics. You don't have to have free bus fare, because again, you got to pay the people that drive the buses. You got to pay the people that drive the metro. Sorry, you got to pay the conductors. You got to pay the people that maintain it. You got to fuel it. There's the maintenance on the actual trains. Y'all get what I'm trying to say? This makes absolutely no fiscal sense. And Andrew Cuomo was right for saying that. You don't have to do that. Mariah, do candidates have to be born here? No, not to run for mayor. You just have to be a citizen. It depends on what you're talking about. Like if you're talking about to be a United States president, yeah, you have to be born here. You can't be naturalized. But if it's something like a governor or a mayor, no, you just have to be a citizen. Most of the time, I rode the TTC in Toronto or CTA or the L in Chicago. I found a way to get on without paying. Yeah, that's not happening here. In Colombia, baby, no. Baby, no. It ain't happening. Not at all, though. And guess what? There are harsher, they strictly enforce that. There are harsher punishments for you trying to get on there for free. They don't play that. I'm a true broke progressive city slicker. Okay, let's continue.
Just getting approval in the state legislature. And this morning, he's also facing questions about his own experience at just 33 years old with only 5 years in the state assembly.
And the experience that I show in this moment is to be able to meet the crisis that New Yorkers are facing and deliver them a new kind of city, one that is unencumbered by the old way.
You can tell them what you want to hear, they want to hear, but you can't meet the moment, sir, because you're offering a lot of stuff that the city just cannot afford. Or maybe they can because they had $500 a night to pay for thousands of illegal immigrants. So maybe the city can afford it. I don't know. But what I do know is that this doesn't sound like it makes sense. I don't know any economist, any serious economist that would say all these social programs, and I'm going to get into it, that he's talking about make sense for the city. And let's be clear, New Yorkers already pay very high taxes.
In November, he'll face New York City Mayor Eric Adams.
He's a snake oil salesman. He will say and do anything to get elected.
Adams was indicted on corruption charges, which were later dismissed by the Trump administration. During our interview, the president going on the attack.
So President Trump just weighed in and called you a communist lunatic. What do you say to that?
You know, this is not the first time that President Trump is going to comment on myself.
The next mayor of New York City will have to work with the Trump administration. Are you willing to do that? Will you do that?
I will work with the Trump administration when it is to the benefit of New Yorkers. My approach will never be reflexive, whether in agreement or opposition. But if it comes at the expense of the New Yorkers that I'm running to serve, then no, I will not be working with the administration on harming the people that I look to represent.
So some Democrats are still trying to wrap their heads around his victory.
That was a diplomatic approach to that question. You know, he treaded
Facing his enthusiasm, his energy, but maybe not backing his policies just yet. As for Andrew Cuomo, he is not out of the race just yet. He's now considering running as an independent in the general election. There'll be a Republican on the ballot as well, guys.
Not over yet. All right. Thank you so much, Rachel. Good to have you here.
Well, we already know that New York City is not going to elect a Republican, to their detriment. Honestly and truly. And I mean that. I am so grateful that during the last 4 years, and even we felt it, everybody struggled across the nation, but I would have much rather have been in Texas than California or New York. I'll tell you that. If I were a multi-billionaire and I were mayor, I'd be super progressive, articulate, and ghetto. Everybody would love you. Yeah, because people love a dog and pony show. They don't think about fiscal responsibility. A lot of people aren't educated in matters of economics. So let's go through his policy. So I'm going to go to his page. First of all, let me show y'all this. This is another reason why I would absolutely not support him. So I'm going to read from here. This is his platform on LGBTQIA protections. To be clear, I believe that I don't care whether or not gay people have the right to or to not get married. I'm just being honest. Like, if they get married, I don't care that they got married. If there was a law passed tomorrow saying that they couldn't get married, if that Supreme Court decision was overturned, I wouldn't care. I don't care either which way. I'm going to say that. What I do care about is I don't believe in discrimination. I don't believe that they should lose their jobs or not be allowed medical care and things like that. Just basic human rights just because they are gay or lesbian. Okay. I don't care about, like, I think that's wrong. But as far as like the other stuff, I don't care either which way. I'm just being honest. It doesn't move me either which way. Now, as far as the trans agenda, this is what he says. Queer and trans people across the United States are facing an increasingly hostile political environment. New York City must be a refuge for LGBTQIA plus people, but private institutions in our city have already started capitulating to Trump's assault on trans rights. Okay. Meanwhile, the cost of living crisis confronting working class people across the city hits the LGBTQIA community particularly hard. Baby, it's hitting us all hard. What are you talking about? With higher rates of unemployment and homelessness than the rest of the city. The Mamdani administration will protect LGBTQIA plus New Yorkers by expanding and protecting gender affirming care citywide. What does that mean, sir? Expanding, does that mean that city funds are going to be allocated to gender affirming care? Y'all can afford that down there? Because again, New Yorkers are already paying high taxes. Those gender affirming surgeries are not cheap, y'all. To get bottom surgery, to get your outie turned into an innie, that's gonna run you all about $20,000. Y'all got $20,000 to spend on that? And those hormones, that's an ongoing, non-stop thing. You got to keep taking that. That's something the city government will have to keep funding. Y'all got money for that? Okay. Making NYC an LGBTQIA plus sanctuary city and creating the office. Now you want to spend more money. You want to create a whole nother office in the government of LGBTQIA plus affairs. Okay, so now you want the trains free, which is not free. It costs to upkeep them. And now you want to expand gender affirming care. And then on top of that, you want to create an office where you have to hire staff, right, to run it. Y'all got big money. I need y'all to let me hold something over there in New York. Mariah, I love Dallas. I went to Deep Ellum and had the best burger at the Angry Dog. The Angry Dog is good. Well, I'm glad you love Dallas. Yeah, that's my city. I love my city. I don't live there now, but at times I do miss it. I miss it when it was a simpler time. It used to be very, very cheap, y'all, to live in Texas. and to live in Dallas, I don't think, because we didn't know how bad it was everywhere else, I don't think we appreciated it at the time. Like I had a 1-bedroom apartment when I was in 2011. I was able to move out on my own. I had a job working at a bank making $10.50 an hour. And I could walk to work because it was down the street from my house. And then my community college was down the street from my house. So I didn't need a car. You do have to have a car, but it just kind of worked out where I didn't. And I was paying $500 a month in rent, y'all. Life was good. Life was good. Mariah, okay. You're in Massachusetts. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so let's see what else he's talking about. Affordable housing. Oh, first of all, rent freeze. A majority of New Yorkers are tenants, and more than 2 million of them live in rent-stabilized apartments. These homes should be the bedrock of economic security for the city's working class. Instead, Eric Adams has taken every opportunity to squeeze tenants with his hand-picked appointees to the rent guideline boards, jacking up rents on stabilized apartments by 9% and continuing the most since a Republican ran City Hall. Honestly, I don't know if there's a way that you can solve the rental crisis, because people say, okay, well, you can solve the rental crisis by allowing more houses to be built. But for example, in Texas, our rental crisis in the cost of housing has exploded, and it hasn't been for a lack of housing being built. Housing has been built, right? But these developers go into it looking for money. There's plenty of housing on the market in Texas. But when you see, I can build a whole bunch of houses and apartments, and people from New York are willing to come pay $500,000 in cash for a house, whereas the average Texan used to have to get like the same house used to be like $150,000, and they were, had a mortgage on it. Like, these people saw money. So it's not always just a lack of housing, right? I don't know how you fix this issue, to be honest, because again, I come from a state where we have plenty of housing, and plenty of housing is being built, and the new houses are starting astronomically high as compared to where they used to be. As mayor, Zohran will immediately freeze the rent for all stabilized tenants and use every available resource to build the housing New Yorkers need and bring down the rent. Here's another thing you have to think about. When there are cities where they have rent freezes and things of that nature, a lot of land developers will simply say, okay, well, there are too many regulations in New York. I don't want to build there because I don't want to build somewhere where there are rent freezes. In order for that to work, you would have to do that countrywide. And even then, you have to think about, like, on a global market, we are not the only place where a land developer could build housing. We're not the only country. So then you'd have a situation where people will be like, well, then bump it. I'll just go build developments in countries that are investor friendly. So these are things you have to consider when you come up with these kind of policies, is what I'm saying. The number one reason working families are leaving our city is the housing crisis. This is true. It's absolutely true. I don't know how to fix it. The mayor has the power to change that. I don't know about that. I mean, yeah, you might have the power to, like, change some things. I don't know if you're ready to deal with the consequences of it. Okay, building affordable housing. We need a lot more affordable housing, but for decades, New York City has relied almost entirely on changing the zoning code to entice private development, with results that can fall short of the big promises. And the housing that does get built is often out of reach for the working class who need it the most. As mayor, Zohran will put our public dollars to work and triple the city's production. Permanently affordable, union-built, rent-stabilized home, constructing 200,000 new units over the next 10 years. Any 100 affordable development gets fast-tracked. No more pointless delays. Okay, that might be a good idea. And Zohran will fully staff our city's housing agency so we can actually get the work done. Well, that requires money then. That requires money. For the additional housing we need, Zohran will initiate a comprehensive plan for New York City to create a holistic vision for affordability, equity, and growth. This planning will allow New York City to address the legacy of racially discriminatory zoning. Okay, so let's I got to be honest here. What happens in this situation where you address the zoning issues, because let's be clear, cities are zoned like this the way people with money want them zoned. What will happen is people who have money will leave. The investment will leave these communities because they just don't want to live around certain people and environments. And that sounds very harsh, but it's true. So that's what I'm saying, guys. You have to think about unintended consequences of these actions. You have to think about human nature. I'm sorry. He also has a plan to crack down on bad landlords. Again, people will just say, I'm not going to, I don't want to invest in a property in New York City. Safety. This is the biggest problem. So basically, he's already like, if he was to get in office, he's already put a bad taste in NYPD's mouth, right? He's called them racist. He done called them every name in the book. So we all see the crime. Crime has skyrocketed in New York City. I was watching Lou earlier today, and he was saying he left. Lou on LV Nation, he was saying that he left because crime had gotten so bad and the cost of living was so bad. So, like, you know, in my opinion, they need to untie the hands of the officers in New York City. In New York City, if you rob a store, they will let you go the next day. To me, they are too progressive on crime. And all you do when you release people is you let them back out, they go commit the same crimes, go to jail, come back out, do the same thing again. The law has no bite. That is why crime is going up in that city. On top of the fact that you have all these undocumented people in New York City because it's a sanctuary city and they're unable to get jobs. So they have to do what they have to do to survive. On top of the increase in gang activity. So, Mariah, do you believe most Black women are actually physically liberal? Because with Black men, it depends on how successful they are. Yeah, I do believe that most Black women, no matter how successful they are physically liberal. So he says all New Yorkers deserve to be safe, but the Adams administration has failed to deliver the sense of safety and security that everyone should feel walking down our streets, riding our subways, or taking our buses. Well, why is that, Zohran? Because are you going to admit that the illegal immigration has contributed to the problem in your city? Because I went through his platform. I didn't see him say anything about that. Okay. Zohran will create the Department of Community Safety. So now you're creating another department. Instead of just funding the police and giving them the authority to do their jobs properly, you want to create you want to spend more money. All I hear is spending money. Okay. To prevent violence before it happens. You can't prevent violence before it happens, sir. This is not Minority Report. It's not how that goes. You know, you can try to take like preventative measures. For example, one preventative measure that the city of New York could take was reversing their decision to be a sanctuary city. That would drastically help the crime rates. Okay. It happens by prioritizing solutions which have been consistently shown to improve safety. Police have a critical role to play, but right now we're relying on them to deal with the failures of our social safety net. Well, I would agree with that, which prevents them from doing their actual jobs. I mean, it's that, and it's also the fact that when they do their job, it doesn't matter because y'all are releasing criminals the next day. So, like, what is the point? Guys, I'm sorry, my camera has died. Let me continue. Through this new city agency and whole of government approach, community safety will be prioritized like never before in NYC. The department will invest in citywide mental health programs and crisis response, including deploying dedicated outreach workers in 100 subway stations, providing medical service in vacant commercial units, and increasing transit ambassadors to assist New Yorkers on their journeys. Expand evidence-based gun violence prevention programs, and increase funding to hate violence prevention programs. Hate violence. So what is that? To me, hate violence prevention, that sounds like you're going to do a DEI training. That's what it sounds like to me. Again, he's talking about spending a lot of money here. This is not cheap, the stuff that he's talking about doing. I mean, it sounds good. It sounds good. What about the money, though? He also wants to create city-owned grocery stores that are affordable. I don't know. I've never seen that done. No cost child care. So universal child care. Who's funding it? Who is funding it? And again, I do think something should be done about the cost of child care in New York. But if everybody has access to free child care, how is that getting funded? And he could say, oh, we're going to tax these companies. They'll just leave New York and go put their headquarters somewhere else. Like how Amazon did when they put their headquarters here in Texas and moved it from California. Baby baskets for New York newborns. Okay, more money. Okay, so this is how he says he's going to pay for it. So Rand has a plan to bring down cost of living through city-owned grocery stores, universal child care, and other bold proposals, and he knows exactly how to pay for it too. So Rand's revenue plan will raise the corporate tax rate to match New Jersey's 11.5%, bringing in $5 billion, and he will tax the wealthiest 1% of New Yorkers, those of which who don't have to live there anymore. They could decide they want to leave. Okay. Those earning above $1 million annually, a flat 2% tax. Right now, city income tax rate are essentially the same, whether you make $50,000 or $50 million. Zohran will also implement common sense procurement reform, end senseless no-bid contracts, hire more tax auditors, and crack down on the fine collection from corrupt landlords to raise an additional $1 billion. I'm not even gonna hold you. If I had some money and I lived in New York and I saw this proposal, I would get the hell out of New York. Mayor of Boston, the Asian lady, has a 61% approval rating. Toronto has a progressive Asian lady as mayor. I pray she's successful and we Torontos get out of our state of depression. I hope she's successful. I mean, I hope it's good for the city, you know? Okay, so yeah, I don't think this is going to be good for New York. Honestly and truly, I think they're better off. One reason why I think that Donald Trump gave Mayor Eric Adams a pardon is because Donald Trump decided that Eric Adams decided that he was going to work with Donald Trump. And I think they should give Eric Adams the opportunity to do that. Like, at the very least, if they could clean up the migration problem, they would stop spending so much money on that and they could direct those funds elsewhere. and you would see the crime rate go down, because a lot of this crime that's going on in New York City with the moto thefts, people riding around on motorcycles and snatching phones, that is a new crime to New York City. That's something that's very common in South America, because most people have like motorcycles that drive any type of vehicle. And so if criminals want to rob, the easiest way to do it is to snatch a phone off of somebody who's holding it up in the air. So like these are newer forms of crime. So I don't know. We'll see. New York people don't tend to vote in their best interest. I'm just keeping it real. So I'm going to show y'all what Shakira said today. Oh, actually, no. Before I get on to that, let's see what Chris Cuomo had to say. This is Andrew Cuomo's brother. Let's see what he had to say about Zohran.
Having the nuke. Impeach Trump is the opposite of having a better idea. You're killing your party. You're killing your party. And look, I hope it works out for you. I hope you guys splinter off and become, whatever you really are, because you're not a capitalist and you're not a Democrat.
And he made these statements in response to AOC endorsing Zohran. So he's actually talking about AOC right now.
And, you could say, well, what do you know? I was raised by a real one. I was raised by a real one. Go ahead and criticize Mario Cuomo. What's going to be your biggest insult? That he spawned me and Andrew? Is that going to be the best you have? Because you ain't shit compared to him.
Damn.
Not in terms of intelligence.
Damn. Chris Cuomo is coming out swinging, y'all. I did not expect that. I didn't watch this whole clip all the way through. Baby, he told AOC, you ain't shit compared to my daddy. And I will say this, AOC is not intelligent. She's not. When I used to be more like progressive, when I was in college, y'all, when I was younger, when I was like more idealistic and I didn't think things through, AOC was like, oh my God, she's from the Bronx, which is come out that that's not really true. But it's like she's from the Bronx. She's Puerto Rican. She's young. She seems like she's willing to stand up to Nancy Pelosi. She has all these great ideas. But the more I started listening to these lower form Senate hearings instead of just like clips, I was like, oh, she's actually not intelligent at all. She's not smart, guys. Like she's very inarticulate. She's not intelligent. She doesn't think about the things that she says. It's all talking points.
In terms of success, not in terms of pedigree, not in terms of philosophy, not in terms of mission, not in terms of eloquence, not in terms of charisma, not in terms of anything. Certainly not electability.
No, AOC doesn't have any charisma. She very much gives like angry liberal shrill. And like there are some, like Obama, he was very charismatic. She doesn't give that same type of charisma. Same way with Kamala, she just didn't have it. And that's what I'm saying. I can't even think of anybody on the Democrat side that has the level of charisma that even a JD Vance has. I can't think of anybody on that side that can win people over to that degree.
You are killing your party because you are not a real one. Because you're doing what's good for you in a vacuum with your little social media following. You're no different than a pod bro. And you're killing your party. And Democrats better wake the fuck up and realize that you're better than this. Be with the 80.
I mean, it's not just her that's killing the party, though. Let me be fair here. Yes, you have these super radical liberals who support illegal immigrations, and things of that nature, who are causing people to be like, oh, hell no, we don't want that for our community. But then you also have the people like the Cuomos who are a part of the establishment. You got the Nancy Pelosi's. You got those old dinos who also are killing the party because they are not responsive to their younger base. in any way, and they rig elections and they put in place who they want to put in place. So that party has lost all credibility. It's both sides.
Not the 20. Okay? How do you keep them from having the nuke? Impeach Trump is the opposite of having a better idea. You're killing your party.
And he's right, though. I mean, what are they going to do? They're going to just Trump for the next 3.5 years? Or are you going to come with some good, economically sound solutions to the problems? Not pie in the sky ideas that are not well thought out, that don't consider human nature. Now, kind of going back to the whole immigration conversation, let's see what Shakira had to say about the deportations going on. And I'm going to read some of the responses that she got under the video.
For an immigrant in the U.S., it means living in constant fear. And it's painful to see. I just hope that they can be treated, and that we all can be treated under principles of equity and freedom. Those same principles that shaped this nation and so many other.
Now, to add some context, Shakira is from Colombia. Ma'am, I wish in this video you would have talked about the fact that people cannot be in your country illegally or they will get deported. So before you start talking about equity and things of that nature, I want you to talk about the immigration laws in your country of origin. Furthermore, Shakira is very rich and famous. I'm quite sure she's not living in fear. And she's in the United States legally. I'm sure she probably bought her passport.
Big, powerful nations in the world have been shaped by the hard work of immigrants. What I worry the most is that this country, as well as many other countries that have issues with immigration, find a humane solution to those issues. For an immigrant in the U.S.
So I'm going to read this off of my phone because for whatever reason, when I get on the computer, I cannot scroll down to the comment section. But this is what people were not feeling her. Like illegal immigrants were not feeling what she said. Give me 1 second. So one person says, "We love you, Shakira. Thank you for speaking up." Another person says, "I'm an immigrant and I don't live in constant fear." Another man says, "I'm an immigrant. I arrived illegally. I have never felt afraid. I took advantage of the opportunities this country offered me, and I had a wonderful, fulfilling career. Legal immigrants have nothing to fear." Someone says, "I admire artists who express their views with respect and don't try to please everyone. Shakira shows her heart just as it is, regardless of other people's opinion. I admire her for that." Okay, fair enough. Somebody says, "Girl, you have a visa and are a billionaire." Someone else says, "As someone who has chosen to make the U.S. my home legally, I'm saddened by Shakira's words. We should celebrate the opportunities this country offers, not spread fear and disrespect. Let's embrace the beauty of legal immigration and the freedom it brings. I'm disappointed with your statement, Shakira." Someone says, "Fear, like her in Spain breaking the law." Are they talking about her, how she owed the Spanish government taxes? Okay. Why do people think there was ever freedom in the States? It's bullshit. Okay, well, girl, go live somewhere where they have Sharia law. And then you tell me whether or not you think you have freedom. Now, it's not perfect. There are a lot of things we can change. But I wouldn't say there was no freedom. Somebody says, so you are an illegal immigrant, Shakira. Is that why you live in constant fear? Wow. I'm done reading those, guys. Okay, so Jamal says, at least Shakira is liberal and cares about the poor. Okay, well, she got plenty money. She got plenty money. If Shakira wants to go build a homeless shelter right now, she can. She got plenty money. It's not it is the radical liberals hurting the party. As somebody who used to be a liberal, I would not go to a party. I would not go back and vote for any AOC types. I would not vote for any Jasmine Crockett types. So it is the radical liberals. It's how they're behaving over these deportations. It's how they're constantly Trump, the Trump derangement syndrome. There's nothing attractive or appealing about that party, whether it's coming from the dinos or whether it's coming from the so-called progressives who act like they don't know the difference between an illegal immigrant and an immigrant, who act like they don't know what a man or a woman is. So us, like traditional people, again, I said this before, the only reason why I'm a conservative leaning independent is because what used to be liberal is now conservative ideas. And I'm not going to forget how they've acted towards RFK and the Make America Healthy movement. So it's definitely the radical left that is turning people off. I would say that more than anything, because honestly and truly, like, if you're now, most of us that left the Democratic Party, we left because of the dinos in the party. We left because of the election rigging and the Nancy Pelosi's and them. But like, if you're a conservative or an independent and you're in any way turned off by the Republican Party, you're not going to listen to an AOC and think, that's attractive, I want to go over there. You're going to be like, hell, I'll just stay home if that's the case. Okay, guys, with that said, I have reached the end of my show. Again, if you need one-on-one coaching, you can go to my website, ThePassportSis.com. I do hourly one-on-one coaching. So if you are going through a traumatic situation in your life, maybe you've been laid off, lost a job, leaving a relationship, I've been through it all and come out on the other side and have been able to improve my life. I'm coming at y'all. I decided I wanted to move to a different country to experience it. I'm coming at y'all live from the beautiful city of Medellin. So again, I've always been a person that's been able to take lemons and make lemonade. So if you're going through something in your life and you need one-on-one coaching, book your session with me at ThePassportSis.com. Let me help you get a new lease on life. With that said, thank you. If you came, please hit your like button on the like button. Sorry, please hit the like button on the way out and share my video if you care. I will see y'all again tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll come on around 5 o'clock because I have some things I have to do later on tonight. With that said, y'all have a good night.